This is Bulow Plantation State Historic Park. It's located in Florida. It's the site of the largest 19th century sugar mill in America, and it was owned by the Bulow family. It was destroyed by the Seminole Indians at the outset of the Second Seminole War in December 1835. We're going to take a look at the enormous sugar mill ruins behind me, but first we're going to start with the Plantation House ruins. So come join us.
So Bulowville was the largest plantation in East Florida. In 1821, Major Charles Wilhelm Bulow acquired 4,675 acres. He cleared 2,200 acres, cultivated sugarcane, indigo, cotton, rice. His son John Bulow inherited after his father's death in 1823. The plantation house that stood here was 2.5 stories tall and was one of the largest mansions in Florida at that time. There are no photos of the Bulowville plantation, but they believe that it resembles this old plantation. We're going to take a closer look of the ruins of the house. And this was a very large mansion for its day. These white posts would mark the boundaries of the house itself. And you could see ruins of the foundations. This is the other side of the house with the trees growing up right in the middle of the ruins. So from this angle, we can see ruins scattered about here, and there seems to be a connection of the stones going all the way down to where we first looked at the ruins on the opposite end. I'm going to take a look at the slave cabin area. 40 cabins were home to 197 men, women, and children in 1830. Cabins were arranged in a semicircular pattern centered around the main plantation house. Many of the plantation's buildings, such as stables and kitchens, were within the quarter-mile arc of cabins. So we're going to take the trail along the slave cabin ruins. There were 40 cabins, which were home to 197 men, women, and children, according to the 1830 census. Cabins were arranged in a semicircular pattern around the main plantation house. And we're looking for rock foundation. So slave cabin site, 12-foot by 16-foot cabin with a shingled roof, board floors, walls, and a coquina fireplace. So the fireplace should still be here. And this is the remains of one of the cabins. So we're going to take the nature trail to the sugar mill ruins, and we're going to see additional slave quarters on the way. Okay, we can see on our right the remains of a slave cabin. one block right here. A series of looks like a few more blocks. This one, and right there. There's two more. A little scattered. But that would be the remains of another slave cabin. Oh, this is a interesting walk through oak tree. A lot of pine here. Sweet Dreams, sugar production in East Florida. So this is the sugar plantation of Charles Wilhelm Bulow, born in Germany, and owned the largest sugar mill plantation in America during the 1820s up until December 1835, January 1836, when the Seminoles burned his home and sugar mill. And these are the ruins of the gigantic sugar mill. This is the curing room, also known as the purgery. And it's pretty much just ruins right now. Storing and loading. The hogsheads were stored on the floor above this room and were lowered through an opening into wagons below. The wagons left through these archways and hauled sugar to a landing for the shipment by boat to Jacksonville, St. Augustine, or Savannah. The economy of owning a sugar plantation from field to market. The last step in producing sugar on my plantation involved getting it ready to ship it north to market. And we'll take a look at these docks that they shipped it from. This is the curing room or purgery. The hogsheads were kept in this warm curing room for 20 to 30 days until all molasses had dripped from the sugar into a cistern located in the recess beneath. The molasses was sold for making rum. The partly emptied hogsheads were then refilled with sugar and stored. Another view of this purgery. Just a spoonful of sugar. The transformation of cane juice into sugar. Bulow Plantation, 200 slaves, 1,000 acres planted, 1.2 million pounds of sugar produced. That's 1,200 pounds of sugar per acre. This is a wider view of the curing room. Riding the Jamaica train, the operations of the sugar house. Getting sugar out of the sugar cane was very hard work. Not only did the slaves have to cut the cane exactly when it was mature, they had to crush it and boil the juice as soon as possible in order to get the most and the best sugar out of the crop. During the sugar making season, everyone worked around the clock to make sure the job was done right. And sugar mill work was amongst the hardest work there was in colonial times. This is a view of where some of the kettles would have been located from right to left. The grand kettle, the proper kettle, the flambeau kettle, the syrup kettle, and the battery kettle. Then the cooling vats would have been located here. We'll see if they have any examples of some of the vats. They're like huge iron bowls. The kettle's in operation. The juice flowed from the settling vats on the second floor into the grand and largest of 5 kettles built into the furnace below. The grand was also the coolest, being furthest from the battery kettle under which the furnace was fired. Cane juice. Cane was placed on a conveyor starting here. The conveyor, about 3 feet wide, lifted it to the roller crushers on the second floor. The juice ran into settling vats. Then the crushed cane, called the bagasse, came out on the opposite side of this building and was hauled away in carts. So the boiler and machinery. A large long boiler and furnace filled the right half of this room. Steam from the boiler was piped to an engine on the second floor of the building to your right. And this engine operated a large gear that turned the rollers to crush the cane. And a lot of debris strewn around the outside of the sugar mill. So this is the ruins of the sawmill, just several coquina blocks. It was run by the same steam engine as the sugar mill when sugar was not being made. So this well supplied water for the boiler that produced steam to operate the mill's cane crushing machinery. This is a well which is located adjacent to the sugar mill ruins. Behind the sugar mill is a spring house. This is the museum displaying some of the artifacts, and we're going to take a look at those now. Bulowville, the story of the land. Great house at Bulowville, a center for hospitality and gracious living. This is what Bulow Sugar Mill would have looked like with all its woodwork. This is of particular interest. John James Audubon, the naturalist, he visited Bulowville. His visit reflects the refinement of Bulow. Men whose time was spent collecting and drawing birds were not generally accepted by the hard-working planters, but Audubon did stay here from Christmas 1831 to January 1832. Pipe smoking, drinking, newspapers, books, cards, and talk constituted Bulow's relaxation on lonely evenings. He also had a light-oared bark rowed by slaves that he used for short, pleasant trips. And that would be up Bulow Creek. These are Bulow household articles. We'll take a look at these. This is a chamber pot. These are pieces of stoneware crock. Sorted bottles, all but one broken. Bone-handled fork and English featherage dishware, wall plaster, English transferware, an ironstone lid and a teapot lid, chest handle and an iron, part of an iron pot. This is an iron kettle spout. Crop production on a East Florida plantation. Soil and climate were thought to be well suited to cultivation of sugarcane and cotton, the principal market crops in East Florida. Indigo and rice were other market products in this area. Slaves cut ripe sugar cane with sharp knives, like the one to the left. In the middle is a hoe. This is the blade of a hoe. This was found in the ruins of Bulow Plantation. And we'll look at some of these other artifacts from Bulow. We have pitchfork, broad axe, an angle iron, part of a gate iron, hand-wrought spikes, an axe head, 2 axe heads, pair of hoes. Here we have a hinge, a couple more examples of hinges, and other miscellaneous artifacts. We'll look at a few things here. This is what's called a sugar mill part, that's how they describe that. And this is a saw, along with some harrow teeth. The Seminole conflict and the end of an era. Never again would plantation farming flourish in East Florida. It was, there were a few sugar mills that popped up afterwards from the ruins of these old ones, but Bulow sat in ruins. An army garrison stayed here from the time of its burning in December 1835 to January 1836. They were led by Major Benjamin A. Putnam. This is an authentic sugar kettle vat. In fact, that would be used at the plantation by the dozens for boiling the sugar. Some machinery found in the sugar mill ruins here at Bulow. This is a sugar cane grinder and sugar kettle. This illustration shows how it was used. And this is a canoe that was made by slaves on Bulow's plantation in the early 1800s. And I'll try to get the extent of it. It was found later in Bulow, sunken in Bulow Creek, which is right adjacent to the plantation. Fascinating piece of history. This is a little model showing the indigo production. Vats and drying racks. It's a replica. This is the vicinity of where the docks would be. It's a canoe and boat launch right now. And it's the beautiful Bulow Creek. We'll just take a panoramic look of this creek, which itself is also a state park. As we look at the tannic waters of Bulow Creek. If you enjoyed this visit with us to Bulow Plantation State Historic Park, please click like, subscribe to our channel, and we will see you on our next adventure.